All right, everybody, away we go into today's call. Sorry for the technical delay. As you can see, if you're watching me, I am not in the office. I am in Boston in a makeshift office here today for our office-share company. So this is the TRC sales training as usual, Friday, September the 6th of 2019. And I'm excited to get after it. There's been a lot of really good detail work that's been done over the last couple of weeks. Bravo to all of the volunteers. And again, today I am ready to take volunteers. I asked this last time, and I'm going to put it on. I know Paul and I think Lee, you're out there. I would love to hear some outside sales challenges, though, too. Whether it's you guys, yourselves, or your agents, or whatever it might be. I'd love to get into some outside sales. Andy, you're here today, too. So we can start with outside sales. We can go after whatever. But I really want to deal with that. And I also want to tell you that the sales process is really not completed in our business until you get to the point where in the closing module. So Laura and I have been talking about that a lot in our office, where we have an enormous amount of inventory between seller inventory in the form of listings and buyers. And part of that sales process is convincing people and influencing people to stay rooted in why they're doing this in the first place so that they can come to a decision point. A lot of people just flat out get stuck, can't make a decision, and they can't consummate a sale for themselves. So it's not that you're pushing. There's the art of, and we talked about this in the last sales call, bringing people back to zero-based thinking. Why were they doing this in the beginning, okay? All right, so I'm going to look for volunteers because I am without my regular microphone, so I'm hoping that this is picking it up fine. I'd like you to carry the call with your questions, answers, etc., wherever possible, okay? All right, so here we go. Let me open up the microphones. Good. Any of my principals, my core people in the coaching program, the mastermind, give me a sales challenge if you don't mind. I know, Paul, you're here. Lee, you're here. Andy, that would include you. So Terry, good to see that you're out there too. So when we get to some inside sales challenges, that would be good. I'd like to hear outside sales first.
Hey, Danny.
Hi, Paul.
Mine's kind of unique. I have roughly 5 or 6 listings that should have gone on the market anytime between last spring and now. And I guess one of the drawbacks of your avatar being seniors at an advanced age is that they have health issues.
Yeah.
And so a lot of mine have been put off because people are going through chemo or people are, just a lot of life challenges. So sure. I don't really know if there's a lot I can do other than offer ancillary services like junk haul-away, setting up yard sales, making arrangements for handymen, landscaping, things like that, because a lot of these people are just challenged because they're trying to get out of these homes they've been in 30, 40, 50 years, and they're really old, and sometimes things like that happen. So I just had one that had a stroke at that Bergstrom, and then another gal, Maddie Jefferson, went through chemo. And it's good. The list goes on. I have probably half a dozen listings that should have gone on in the last 6 months that are delayed for various reasons. So that probably has nothing to do with your question because it's not a challenge that anybody can really help me with. But that's my challenge.
Well, I think it does to this extent that it has a lot to do with pipeline. Right? Hey, guys, do me a favor. Pay close attention to your microphones. Lee, I had to mute yours while Paul was asking or putting that on the table just so I don't have to manually do it. But look, Paul, I think, for all salespeople, it becomes a matter of, and again, looking forward to TRC Live where, you had a good conversation the other day. It's this sense of pipeline steadiness. And I think, those things, you're right. There's not much. What are you going to do if somebody is suffering like that and has to be in chemotherapy, but still has a very large reason to sell? What are you going to do? There's not much, right? You're going to have to play through that. So I think this always comes back to pipeline. And to say, look, if my avatar or ideal clientele is going to be somebody who is who's a senior, these are some of the challenges that come with that avatar. So, I don't know necessarily that it means more and more and more in the pipeline. I mean, we always love that if it's more and more quality, right? But the thing is to foresee that these are just going to be those occurrences that happen, right? I do believe what you said was right before, though. I think if you go and, you get to the point where you are all these other ancillary services, sure, I think that's all part and parcel of the process. Because I think sometimes when somebody is elderly, there might be that point in time where all of a sudden something's dramatically accelerated, right? Quickly. Like if you've been there doing the right thing for these people and all of a sudden, they're like, all right, I just got to get it done. And you've been there servicing them. I think that can help the turnover when the moment comes. You can't rush them in that moment, but I liked your idea of ancillary services. So tell me a little bit more. What does that look like?
My dad, who's retired, he's in his mid-70s, and my nephew, who's 20, who took a gap year. We've been using them for landscaping, light, handyman repair, junk haul away, donation, even moving, helping seniors move. My dad has an old 65 GMC truck, and I hire them out at a very reasonable rate, just $23 an hour each, under the table, so there's no taxes. And they're happy because they get cashed out at the end of every job. So that's something we've been doing now for about 2 years, I think, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And people really seem to appreciate it because I think the paralysis for a lot of people is just that they have a lifetime worth of shit in their house and they just don't know where to fucking start. It's just crazy how much crap we accumulate, over the years, books and everything. And just, your kids leave stuff behind and then their grandkids leave stuff behind. It's nuts. So just having that as a resource for people, they seem to really appreciate it. And then also, we're willing to call for the pods if they need pods or dumpsters or whatever, and just kind of do everything and try to make it as hassle-free as possible so they're not overwhelmed. But when something medical does happen, it does put the brakes on a lot of this stuff because they're just not available to do anything,
Sure. Yeah. And I think that helps that pipeline turnover. I really do. What's that? Oh, hang on.
I can hear you, Paul. I don't know if we lost Danny.
No, I'm good. I muted my microphone.
We lost Danny.
Nope, I'm here. I muted my microphone. I heard everything. I muted it only because I'm in this different office today. It was a little bit noisy in the background. Just trying to respect my own rule here. So Paul, I think that's great. And so here's what I would say. As part of the sales process and the marketing, right, to make that clear, because that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. How formally do you present that to people up front as part of your unique selling proposition? Because I think for your avatar, that's a huge selling factor. And I think that stuff actually does accelerate the decision. Let me say it this way. Laura, you can weigh in on this, okay? Because Laura and now Autumn with her help up front, they're always trying to help these people, which in turn, if you give somebody the right help at the right moment, this is this big theme that's permeating all this work that we all do, is that if you get the right message to the right person at the right time, good things happen. I'm even seeing a lot of the internet marketers out there say the same thing, like sort of a new thing, which is not. It's just sort of this epiphany that we need to be talking to people about things that matter most to them. And I think when you do that, I think you can shorten the time frame. Because we've seen that happen. Laura, what do you think? Can you shorten the time frame if you're assisting people? I mean, this would happen with you and I. Our dilemma that I brought up earlier in the call is that dilemma is us trying to help these people get back to zero base. Why are they doing this to begin with? Right? Can you shorten somebody's time frame by servicing them?
For sure. I mean, undoubtedly. Not necessarily with every situation. I mean, obviously you can't further along chemo or make someone magically feel better, but in regards to helping them with their house and cleansing or doing, estate sales or cleanup, all of that, you can definitely help them with, alleviate some of the stress. Because I think a lot of times in this process, especially people that are elderly, they get paralyzed, with the overwhelming thought or action of trying to cleanse their house they've had for 40 plus years. And so, trying to alleviate some of that, I think can help them, further along, or speed up the process, I should say.
Paul, what do you think? Go a little bit deeper.
I agree. I've done a very poor job of making it formal, as you said. It's funny because I talked to my title rep and I said, hey, I gave her the geographic area, and she's getting back to me of owner occupied 30 years or more in my neighborhood. And my idea is to send out the newsletter or the market report to them, and then have the Seattle on the outside. But it's going to be even more neighborhood specific to the neighborhoods I'm targeting. It's not going to be all of Seattle. And then on the inside, I really like what your brother did, where he had a picture of his family and a little bio about himself. So I was going to kind of try to crib that, and then also have testimonials from a few seniors that I've recently worked with, and then and then a list of those ancillary services on the inside as well. So that's something that I'd like to doctor up, and maybe you and I could work on it one-on-one.
Sure.
And we could show it to the group. And
well, Paul, let me say this. Let me grab that thought. I don't want to lose this.
How to make it better.
Yeah. Hang on. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep this mic quiet. It was so loud in this office. So here's the deal. I love this, and I'm going to tell you why. And everybody should lean in on this. Okay, both telemarketers and outside sales. I have had this obsession with long-term follow-up, and that could mean 60 days to 3 years or longer. We even just put somebody finally into a sale that was 8 years in the system, right? So not that I want to brag about that. I think it's wonderful that we're that good, but that's not good business if you're trying to do business. If that's your mantra, upon which you build your business, and we do business with people that long, that should be a rarity, because you shouldn't really be spending that much time up front. Having said that, let's take a look at the 12-month time frame or sales cycle, right? That's what we need to consider here. Most people who are serious, in my experience, about buying or selling property are going to do so in the next 12 months, right? Everybody else to me is, I'm not saying that they're not serious if they're longer than, certainly inside that 18 months. But what happens is they don't need you as much. And see, we need to be needed as salespeople. That's what this is. This is a service business. We are serving these people. And if you hang around this campus with me, I'm imploring you to serve them through guidance. And you can productize your guidance and give it to them and say, look, here's the 7 steps to selling, 6 steps to buying. You want to join me as an agent? Here's 7 steps of a strategic plan. You're physically manifesting that guidance, giving it to them and opening it up. But that's the introduction to a more global conversation, sort of like what we espouse here as well. How's the market, right, Paul? That global answer. Anybody who's serious about 12 months in knows you're a realtor is probably going to ask that question. So it starts there. They need to know generally, because they have a perception, I've got to wait or not, based on how the market is. And if I ask an expert, that answer can influence me. How that expert answers me could influence my decision, which is why I say when it comes to the market, there's always a good market for a seller who has really good property. It's clean, it's priced right, it's ready to be marketed. All that is always a good market for that. Always. Okay. Is it harder where the recessionary environment is there? Sure. But my point in all this is that if somebody comes to you, buyer or seller, regardless of what you think it is and they think it is, they need guidance. The first thing starts with, how's the market? Well, it's always good, but depending on what you're trying to achieve, here are the statistics. Here are the facts of what happens. Guidance piece number 1, most global. Guidance piece number 2, you want to be a seller in this market? Wonderful. Here's 7 steps. Guidance piece number 2, and then 2A would be the buyer guidance, right? But here's where the money is made for salespeople, real estate agents in this business. It's what these two are talking about. The minute they accept, especially any kind of initial guidance from you, which would include an offer. I wanted to talk about that today too. The offer, right? Of what? More relevant service to them. See, I can show you 7 steps, 6 steps, and that will professionalize the context within which I'm saying this, but I'm going to get more tactical as a guide quickly and say, hey, I'd like to add you to the multiple listing service. It's direct from the source, and it will help you see what's selling around you so that over the next 12 months where you're thinking about it, you're being properly prepared, okay? That's specific. Now, if you get in the property on the sell side, for example, and you're able to go out there and dramatically demonstrate this, now you go even deeper. Oh, in the case of your house, here are the things that if you have the money, if you have, the wherewithal to pay for them and you're willing to, I'll coordinate them for you. See, all of this is all pre-sale. And what it's doing, Paul, I think it's shortening their time frame. People will sit around and wait to be led. That's what they will do. They will wait to be led. So
I'll take it a step further.
Yeah, go. Come on.
There have been instances where the person literally didn't have the money to pay my dad or my nephew up front, and we just said, well, that's fine. We'll just keep all the receipts and submit it to escrow and take it out of closing if that's okay with you. And they were just like, you do that for me? I'm like, yeah, why not?
Ecstatic.
So
right?
Yeah, anything you can do to help,
Yeah, they were ecstatic, right?
Yeah, totally. Really, really, really impressed, and I've gotten some very good reviews on Zillow, and those video monials that I was starting to do earlier this summer were examples of those as well.
Excellent. Yeah, because I really think, let me just go a little bit step further on this. I just think that in that zone, and the zone that I wanted to talk about was this, it's this prospect zone. Let's just call it that. It is singularly the most important thing that we could understand, is that when they have initially gone through this contact phase of lead where we know nothing about them, they know little about us, but we're able to make that initial connection, and we're able to then give them some guidance. And especially when it gets more intimate, what do I mean? They've invited you to the house, or they've allowed you to show them a few properties. That is intimacy. And the intimacy requires us to step up to yet another level, a higher level or deeper, if you want to use that analogy, where you are really being hyper relevant to what matters to them, which is specifics about their property and how to properly prepare. Look, Paul, if I sit down with you and I go through 7 steps to selling your property, and I say, look, you're going to be in a general price range based on math, but here are the things that affect you, and the first thing I hit is condition and staging, you're likely to panic, right? Well, how am I going to do that? Who am I going to do that with? Because they don't necessarily make the assumption that you're going to handle that for them. See, I think a lot of people, they leave that opportunity open when they're discussing this with people, right? Well, how am I going to get that done? Oh, no, that's us. We're full service. I mean, we're the orchestra leader. We bring all these people to you. If you don't have them, we do. In fact, we probably recommend you talk to our people anyway, because we have them better priced. We guarantee that they'll show up. And if they don't, we have our backups. I think, Paul, that's probably one of the biggest missed opportunities for salespeople. And I think that's something you should be training your agents to lean in on. Andy, what say you? You're on here. Thoughts about that, since you're on Paul's team?
Danny, I'm sorry. I was composing an email to one of my clients.
All good. Let's go on to the next one. Anybody else was listening want to weigh in on that? Thoughts there? Thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts. I have a team that will go in, and they'll just, for people that need to wait till close of escrow to pay, all they have to do is pay for the materials, and then they'll get paid at close of escrow for the labor. And it works out. I mean, sometimes we need it, sometimes we don't, but it's always something really good to be able to do. That way they can still get the highest price for their home. I just recently did that in Sunnyvale. And so she got a really high price, and she's back with me trying to buy another house, and she was just feeling so comfortable with the whole process. I even found the staging people just charged her $1,000, and then at close of escrow, they charged her the remaining amount. So that, good salespeople negotiate. Yeah. That's what we do. It's a good skill set. And so I've been able to do that with almost, whatever my clients need. I want to be able to fill that.
Yeah, and I think I think that's what the best realtors do, is that they don't. I've actually heard a lot of realtors say over the years, "Well, that's not my job," which just mind boggles me. I mean, if you're anything as an outside sales agent in real estate, or inside sales, it doesn't matter. If you're whatever part of this you are the orchestra leader of a process. I mean, see, I think one of the things, and I was doing this on the Campfire Gale a couple of weeks ago when I went through the agent course. I had Mark Schwartz's crew on there, and as I was going through it, reading it one by one, I remembered writing it saying the biggest mistake most people make in this business is they're always running straight to sales. Nobody's really thinking about the process that we go through as agents in general. For example, marketing ourselves to people. What do you mean? Well, that's pre-sale, right? If I pre-sell you that I have a plan, and then I have all these people to help me execute the plan, that's huge value. In fact, I believe it's a unique selling proposition simply because most people, even if they do it at the highest levels, they don't state it to people. So,
well, you know what? DeLeon does it. He'll give you 1 month of free staging, up to $10,000 free to do the task in your house. I mean, he's got a whole series of things that he does, and people love it.
Yeah.
He'll for the termite and home inspection. He has called Summer Splash. If you list your home in the summertime, and they represent the buyer, you don't have to pay the buyer's commission. He's always doing something like that.
Because,
only on the internet. We have this paper. I probably mailed it to you a long time ago. It's huge. Everybody looks in there. I mean, my husband calls it the DeLeon newspaper.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sure.
He has every other page with his stuff in there.
Well, he's at that point.
I mean, I love him. I love his marketing. I don't love him as a person. I like him, but he's really great.
Yeah, well, because what he's done, Tony, I think Tony's going to say something. Tony and I were just talking about this. Tony has given a lot of thought to this delivery. You know, he's been obsessed about this thing like I have been for 7 years, which is that prospect stage. And Tony, this is part and parcel as part of that process, right? This is where we can lean in more on that prospect, scenario. Even if your company's just spoken to them and you haven't met with them yet, this is where we can begin to introduce, I think probably, Tony, through that tip series. And again, I want everybody to understand, marketing is a pre-sale. It's what you would say to people if you were face-to-face, but you're doing it to pre-sell yourself. And especially if you've already gotten some conversation. I think too many people in such a large financial and emotional transaction are rushing to try to get in there and control the situation rather than adding value, which is a pre-sale. The more value you add pre-sale, it makes them deciding on you just so much less pressured. I say this all the time. I think hang on one second, Lee. You're creating this vacuum where I don't think there is much, if any, competition if this is done right. Yeah, Lee, go ahead. Weigh in.
I got two things. Like, we literally had a client that was kind of like in the ballpark of what we were talking about with the older people and stuff. I mean, we literally sent a listing agreement over. We met with them last week, and all of a sudden I get a phone call. She says, "I'm feeling pressured." I'm like, "Why?" And she thought it was aggressive for us to send the listing agreement over for her to sign, even though we talked about it. And then she started talking about, we were talking about putting it on the market in the next month, and now she's talking about pushing it back to December or February. I basically smoothed it out, and I just basically said, I'll be in business in February too. But it was frustrating because we were having a meeting with them and talking about all that stuff, and then somehow they got overwhelmed between doctor's appointments and the listing agreement being sent to them. So that was just one thing I would say. The other thing I'm trying to think about, the value thing, because I'm kind of irritated. I've lost a couple listing appointments, and I started thinking about, like, I give a lot of advice of what to do to fix up the house, and every person that I lose, they're taking my advice, and I'm starting to decide if I should wait till I have a listing agreement signed to start giving advice, or how to work around that.
Let me weigh in on this second one first. I would definitely advise against the latter one. I think and I understand why, but see, here's what I've found over all these years of coaching this and hearing that same thing and feeling it myself. Chris Egan feels this, this way strongly, and Chris and Allison are probably on here today, but I talked to them about this.
Yep.
It's that we ruminate over these things that somebody doesn't do for us. We get really stuck in that. We get burned, quote unquote, in our mind's eye. We use very strong language. Well, you took all my advice and you didn't use me. Okay. So it's called a cognitive distortion. You guys know I'm going to hit that at the conference too, right? It's this mindset as small business people, salespeople, that say, because one person burned me, 2, 10, it's always a small percentage of the overall population that burns us. We over exaggerate the problem caused by those 5 whatever people. And we change our whole system based on that. And there's the danger, because we presume that we're giving people away stuff. And see, you'd have to go back and take an inventory of all the people you gave away stuff to for free, for advice, and they went with you and you sold. You'd have to make a list, Lee. You'd have to sit down and go down that whole line of people over all these past, especially as you've moved nicely up into luxury like we have, is you put a whole list of all those people that you gave this advice to, you gave consultation, you gave and you gave and you gave your staff on the phone, you face-to-face, follow-up, contractors, and you won. You got to put your victories down. And then you have to put those losses down, and you're going to see the victories far outweigh because you were a net giver. But let's come back to the problem. We have to, as salespeople, take the autopsy of the one that got away. And we have to really dig in. And that's the one where, like, these sales training calls are great for it, because you come in here and you try to remember everything that happened. Did I follow the identical process I usually follow? That's the first litmus test, Lee, because then it puts us on us and our system. Oftentimes we lose because we cheated something. We got lazy and we went outside the A, B, C, D, E, F, G process that we kill ourselves to put in place. That's step number 1. That begins to eliminate you and your own process as the problem. Step number 2 is to really go back, like the internet marketers that I'm listening to obsess over even the wrong email. Why does somebody opt out when that email goes? What does the language say? What does it do, right? You'd have to go back in your sequence and say, my intuition tells me where I went awry here. And it was right about here. What did we do? What did my staff say? Did I have them equipped with the right follow-up language? Have I trained them there? Was it me? Did I go in and see, sending that listing agreement, even if there's got to be a really super clear thing, then they have to be set up for it and says, hey, Laura's going to send this over. There has to be a super clear moment there, and you have to be certain it's there. And if it's not, and again, I'm not saying you didn't in that case, I'm giving you examples as to the way I would walk it back in that one-off case. And if there's 4 of them, great, go back in each one of them in autopsy. So in this case, take yourself back with me for a second and try to remember the lady that got the contract. That's one. But there's another one that used your advice because you said it generally. And I want to be careful of a cognitive distortion. Try to go back other than the lady who got the contract and felt pushed, okay? That's one thing. That's very specific. We got to go back and look at the moment you said, I'm sending this today to sign. You good to go? Yes. You'd have to go back and try to really remember. Give me another one and be specific about where they took your advice and they went with somebody else.
There's a 1.4. It was on the market for. And I came in, and it's a corner lot, but it backed up to another house and some other quirky things. But I walked in and said, the condition's great. I think there's a lot of little things that we could do to make the appearance and the curb appeal better. And just for example, I mean, the interior stuff, we talked about a lot of things.
Lee, hang on. Lee, hang on. I didn't get enough context, or I missed it. Please take me back. Where did this 1.4 lead come from?
You broke up.
Lee, where did the 1.4 lead come from?
Yeah. Wait, I keep hearing 1.4 and they cut out.
Yeah. Is it expired?
I think you asked where it came from.
Expired?
Isn't it expired?
Oh, is it expired?
Okay.
No, it's cutting out.
Okay. So it's an expired. Yep.
Yeah, it's expired.
Okay.
The people are in Tennessee. They've moved out. They're gone. He's a contractor, comes back and forth, finish up a couple jobs.
Okay.
Had a really good meeting with him. Talked about price and marketing, and then walked him through the house. But one of the last things I said to him was he had green shutters on a brick house with framed out white windows, and I said, I think you need to. We're in DC. I think you need to change the colors of the shutters to black also. And he didn't like that. But then he thought about it. He looked at it, and then, sure as shit, that he told me that he gave the listing to another agent. And then I just looked at the pictures today, and there's black shutters on the house. And everything else I said to do on the interior was done as well, and the exterior. And I know for a fact the guy that he hired didn't say any of this shit.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's walk it back. So you told me he didn't like something, so you pissed him off somehow, whether you said it a certain way or not. So we got a little nugget.
Well, I think that what he didn't like the fact is I was kind of he was ready to be done with it, but I said I think that a little thing like changing the colors of the shutter is going to make this colonial house pop more than with these green shutters.
Okay. Did you
a
ask?
lot of people don't like green.
Okay. All right. Good. So we got that. How did you ask him? Can you remember your tone of voice?
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking. We were outside finishing up, and he asked me, he said, what do you think about the outside?
Okay, but
I
Lee,
said, I know you're not going to probably like this, but I think you need to change the color of the shutters.
why did you see, that's interesting. So we've got the problem point here. It was very easy to find. We got a problem point, two bulls lock horns over something. And what's interesting is you set yourself up almost to have the conversation. Why would you in that case say, you're not going to like this? Instead of just saying, hey, you may or may not want to do this. And if you want to really get into
actually, I didn't say you might not like this. I said, I know this is probably one more thing that you probably don't want to deal with, but I really think it'd be to the best interest to change the color of the shutters.
Okay. And you had a very strong language for us here today. You said that pissed him off.
I think he was kind of over the whole situation, and I kind of gave him a list of things that I said in this price range I think you got to do to get the house sold.
Okay. And so how'd you leave off? First of all, did you know he was interviewing other people?
I found that out when I got there because he said no at first.
Okay. All right.
And honestly, I walked out of there thinking I got the listing.
Yeah.
Followed up with him, and then his neighbor died. And then there was like a week silence, from him, and I didn't pressure him. And then when I called him back again, then he said that he had picked someone else.
I have to be a stickler for detail because we're asking for an autopsy, so I'm going to go high C on you. Do you have a sheet filled out by one of your inside sales team that said, I'm not interviewing other people?
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you do, they did the job the best that they could. I'm not saying we can always get these questions answered, but you'd be set up now to know because somebody came in after you, right?
Yeah. Well, he did say that he had talked to other people, but he didn't say he was interviewing anyone else. Okay. And I asked him again when I was there.
Okay. And what did he say about that?
He said, no, I talked to a couple other people, but I really like your approach and your marketing and your.
Okay, cool.
He was appreciative that I was very factual and I told him the truth. I didn't bullshit because the agent beforehand, it was a month before she even gave him any feedback at all.
Okay, all right. So now we go on. We get past this. What kind of time frame happens the minute you walk out the door? What was your assumption when you walked out the door?
I thought I was going to get the listing.
Okay, but again, for follow-up, immediate follow-up. See, because here's I think
called
him
the next day.
Yeah, he called you the next day?
I called him.
And what happened?
His neighbor, his good friend neighbor had passed away, so he was kind of like, I'm not focused on that right now, but I will be back in touch with you. So if you don't hear from me in a couple days, follow up with me.
Okay, what happened? Okay, what happens next?
I followed up with. I let a week go by, and then I followed up with him.
Okay, and what happened?
we danced a little bit. He didn't really give me an answer, and then he asked me to give him a call back because he was in the middle of something, and then I did. He didn't answer, and then he texted me.
Okay, what did he text you?
He basically, said, I appreciate all your effort, but I'm going to use someone else.
Okay, did you ask him why?
Yeah.
What did he say? What did he say? Hey guys, hang on. Someone.
Price.
Hold on, Tony.
Pricing and commission.
Oh, sorry, Tony. Something was really loud there. He said, "Okay, so now you got undercut."
Yeah.
Okay, so the guy was price driven. See, this is one of the very specific reasons. And Laura, you can weigh in on this too if you're there. I see your mic is muted, but this is one of those issues that we dealt with in this intake form. We slowed down that moment. We didn't get overly excited to just go out anymore to these luxury listings, especially in this case, right? So we slowed it down and we really got into that. What's most important to you about selling this house? And really trying to get them to come up with that. Because if the guy's a contractor, he's used to being nickel and dimed, he's used to nickel and diming people. So we have this very particular avatar. Again, remember, people are expired for multiple reasons, but not the least of which is he doesn't like to be told what to do. That's clear. You told him what to do, and even if you were soft about it, he didn't like it. He locked horns with you, okay? Because he didn't want to be told what to do. That's one thing. But the other thing is, I think my gut is, if you go back and you look at the intake form, it probably should have gone a little bit deeper. And ultimately, lastly, if you sense that there's a guy like this and that there's, underlying actions, I would say going out the door, if you sense this, say, look, is there any reason that you wouldn't do business with me before I leave here today? I remember that was the way I got my first job when I was a kid coming out of college. I was down on Wall Street, and I couldn't figure it out. I worked my tail off. I had all these great grades and this good resume, and here I was, and I kept getting blown out of the water until finally I realized it wasn't about me at all. It was about them. They wanted to talk about themselves. They wanted to tell me how great they were, and then I would just wait until they were done. And at the end, they said, any questions for me? I said, yeah, just one. Any reason why you think I can't do the job? I just had them painted into a tiny little corner. And so one guy starts fumbling on, well, I don't know your math. I said, what kind of math do I have to do here? He's like, yeah, you're right. It's nothing, right? I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to tell me that I have this resume, in your case, this huge successful resume in Bethesda, and I can't do the job? Got to put it on them, right? And another question could be, is there anything I didn't cover that's important to you? Especially if you had that. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything I didn't cover that's important to you? Is there anything I didn't cover that's important to you? Because it's about them. And sometimes we get so caught up in this nice, and Lee, I know how you sell. You become very familiar with people very quickly. You're very successful because of that. It's called being extremely well met, right? We know you will be the Pied Piper at TRC Live. You are magnetic, right? So people love you and they come to you and you get so comfortable with them that sometimes your guard drops a wee bit. You and Dean Miller, guilty of the exact same thing. You get uber comfortable with people. And I'm not saying in this case you broke your own formula, but I am suggesting it could be tweaked to be better. So that's.
So I have an.
Hold on, Gail, hang on. Gail, hang on.
Seller qualifying question.
Gail, hang on 1 second. Okay. Here's the deal, Lee. I think if you go back and you look at your process, okay, you cheat back towards your process first. It's always a safer place because, see, your solution in this case was to bail out on all these things that are working for you. And I think that's the most dangerous part of this mindset here that salespeople have. It's called a cognitive distortion. My sister, who's a 35-year plus special needs teacher, taught me about cognitive distortions. It's behavior modification, right, is what it is. So we have to modify our behavior first to be the best that we can be. And we have to recognize in the toughest moments where this is two bears in a cage that didn't agree about this list, or you were the bearer of the truth, unfortunately. Here you are, you're bearing this truth to this guy. This guy needs to go in and he needs to do this work if he really wants to enhance him. That is absolutely the truth. It's absolutely the best advice that anybody could give. You know the other knucklehead wasn't even close to giving it to you, but the guy took it, he did it, and then somebody said, yeah, I'll do it for way less. So you're right, he had these moments, but he was missing some sort of a loyalty to you. So the issue becomes about that far and that deep in, what did we miss in the law of reciprocity to create such a power of loyalty that he would never cheat on you? At the bare minimum, he would have given you a call, right? He would have given you a call and he would have said, look, dude, you're the best one here, right? But this cat just walked through my door and he offered me 4%. But see, somewhere along that line, in that process, you became familiar with him and you talked to him like a real human, and something was lost in the power play. He felt somewhere not as powerful with you. I'm reaching, but I'm listening to the evidence and I'm telling you, I'm familiar with that. I've done it many times. In the past, I would get too familiar with these people because I care. I know why you do it. You care, and you care to tell them the truth. However, I've learned, if anything in sales, stick to the yellow brick road as closely as you can and don't become too familiar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. It's just frustrating because, I mean, there's literally 3 listings this week that I missed out on. And you know, I guess the part is I'm trying to, put across the value in our marketing, where we do drone videos, we do 3D Matterport, we do high depth pictures. You know, we do a walkthrough video, and I try to stick around 6-7%, and then you get some clown who comes in and says he's going to do it for 4% or 5%, and he'll do the same thing, but it's not the same thing. So that's the other thing that gets frustrating when I show them what we do, but they don't really absorb that. They get focused on the price and commission.
Okay. So if that's the way the world works, okay, if that's the way the world works, then that's the way the world works. We can't keep swimming upstream. See, what I think is missing here is that your sense of relationship. Look at Lee. How many times in the course of your career have you lost to a rookie? Multiple times. And you scratched your head and said, how in the world are they going with XYZ rookie over me, a veteran? How in the world? And there's one singular word: relationship. They have the power of relationship, right? So with people we don't know, we have to lean in so deeply to create that it's hard to crack, even for the discounter. I know it's just listen to that. Hang on. Am I cutting out? Yeah. Alan, did I cut out?
Lost you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Tell me when you can hear me. Can you hear me? Check.
Yeah, you're going in and out.
Yeah. Nothing I can do today. I got no microphone here today. So tell me when you can hear me.
We've got another active expired that Jackie's been on the phone, done a great job of nurturing, and he's so commission driven. He's Redfin, and we're trying to express to him the value of what we're going to do compared to Redfin. So I pulled up 10 random expired today, and 4 of them were Redfin listings. So, the other thing that we're trying to figure out is how to get over that hurdle to get rid of that stigma. Redfin is the agency to use, and they've got discounts too.
Yeah, we'll find out why they're coming across as the agency to use, because you know what I just found? I asked one of my buyer clients.
4%.
Yeah, well, there you go. So again, you have to be just above Redfin with just more value, and you have to articulate it clearly. But you have to let them express why Redfin's in the hunt. You have to know why. Competitors are not going away. And you have to know why that competitor even has a chance, because Redfin's bullshit is that what? They're a tech company and that somehow, see, they're winning that game you're trying to win. You're saying, but we do drones, we do this, we do that. Well, they were one of the first to say we do Matterport. Okay. So where you beat them, hold on, where you beat them is you beat them by the relationship, by the professionalism. Say, okay, do you believe that for 4% you're going to get represented at the best level? First of all, that's a lower co-broke fee that's being offered, so that takes you out of the market making. That's one of those things, and that's not price fixing. That's just a fact of life. If I have to go and bait buyers to come to my listing and I discount their fee like the buyer agents, how many of them do you think are not in reality going to pay attention to me? So it becomes a big offer of compensation to co-brokes who make up 88% of this. There's one thing I would go after tooth and nail. Well, great. You want to do it for 4%? You know, I'll take my 2.5 apples and we'll offer 1.5 to them or whatever. You know what I mean? So you can't, you have to go after the heart of the matter. Hey, Gail, I cut you off because I wanted to finish my thought, but I'm going to open your mic up again. Tell me what you were going to say about the seller questionnaire, because that's where you were going and that's where I wanted to go. Gail?
Well,
yeah.
I have, and I don't always use it, so I'm one of those lazy people, but I do have a listing information. Once I get there, what I want to ask them after I go through the home, and what I wanted to say was that I really love the fact that you said that. Is there anything I didn't cover? So in the event that there's something, because there's so much going on, there's so much emotion going on, and sometimes you feel like you got the listing and you don't ask the appropriate question. I love that question, because at the end there may be something that he didn't, I don't know if Lee would have reduced his commission or not. However, at least we could, questions really control what you focus on. So all I'm saying is I like that. I'm into that letter right now, and I'm putting that in because I think that I've left many times myself thinking I got the listing.
Yeah. Tony, I opened up your mic. Go ahead. It was just squelchy there for something happened there. Gail, wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Tone.
Yeah, no, I think Lee and I, and Danny, I'm experiencing what Lee has been experiencing. But I think a couple things, like one, you leave feeling good and they're feeling good and you feel like you got it, and then somebody comes and quotes a higher price, or two, somebody comes and offers a lower commission. So just an idea to chew on with a bunch of smart people here. But what if we were to give gifts, kind of twofold? For the commission thing, what if we had a menu of services and they could get everything for what we normally charge, but they could get a discounted rate, and we could just address that, yeah, you can do that with us too, to address that lower commission. And then for the leading, like I've been thinking a lot about giving gifts. Like Danny, I sent you over like that free home inspection, free listing inspection, free appraisal, free staging consultation, and like certificates that allows our inside sales agent to follow up with them, not always to say, hey, last week spoke, your timing is this, how's that going? But hey, Tony's got a gift for you and we want to send it out to you. Would you be interested in this? Mm-hmm. To where, like Dan Kennedy's, who can pay the most for the client's going to win? What if we actually invested in what they needed and we just paid for it for them? Like all of us know that we would probably get a home inspection before we listed our house for sale. Gail's in a different situation, but the rest of us, to tell you the truth, the power of an appraisal and negotiation, and then isolating yourself from the person that is telling them either the good or the bad news is helpful, and it totally steals somebody's ammo to come in with a higher price.
I think you offer them a credit at closing as opposed to paying it up front.
Yeah, go ahead. Somebody else wants to weigh in there too. Alan, I'll come back to that.
I actually agree more with doing it up front, because if you say, hey, we'll pay for your free inspection, we'll pay for, $1,500 of staging, we'll pay for the house to be cleaned, and let's just be honest, maybe it does total $2,500 or $3,000. I mean, at least here, commissions are holding pretty steady at 6, up to $1 million, and then after that, they're 2.5 per side. I mean, you're talking $30,000. You're talking spending $2,000 or $3,000 to get a $30,000 commission, and you offer all those services, and it blows someone like Redfin out of the water. So that's what we've been doing on some of these higher end listings.
Yeah. All right. So,
and Paul, nobody's going to do that. They're going to think you're crazy that you're spending $1,500 on your listing, and they're not going to compete with you. So I almost picture a menu of services of like free appraisal, free home inspection, free staging consultation, professional photography, videography, and virtual tours, a 6.5% listing. At 6, you get this, and at 5.5, you get this. And then we address a couple things all at once and give a bunch of gifts that the ISA can follow up with them when they're 2 months out, and then 1.5 months out, and 1 month out.
Okay, so let me. All right, hold on. Let me summarize this. Let me chunk this up for everybody, because there's a lot of good ideas in here. First of all, there are a lot of companies, and California has an interesting phenomenon. Marcus in our group has forever, been involved in fix-ups. In fact, it was always sort of I couldn't wrap my head around, why are you getting so involved in fix-ups of these properties in California before they sell? It was just, a big value added for him to contract it. Now, there are some challenges that come with that, and organization, and what if it doesn't sell, and, what if they don't want to pay? And, there's a lot of things there that you need to be heads up on. But going back to Tony's concept that Dan Kennedy has always espoused, the person who's willing to spend the most to acquire a customer wins. They just win. And in Gail's case, when she mentions De Leon is a guy who's been willing to outspend everybody by quite a bit to acquire customers, right? So we know that this concept definitely works. Now, you have to be a good business person on margin to make sure that your business formula returns well enough so that you're not going into deficit each time you do this, which clearly we're not. It's just, you think about this, guys and gals that have been in lead gen for years. What if this is more important than lead gen? What if making a simple offer to people that were, on lists, like expireds that you can buy for cheap, and then you make these big offers? Hey, look, if there are things to do, we'll do it up front to prepare this, right? Whatever you decide. Alan, I don't think there's anything wrong with having it done. I mean, if you're able to control your vendors, and your vendors are willing to get paid at the back end, like our septic system folks, fine. But you will get beaten by somebody who's willing to do it up front. I know Compass, that's one of Compass's big sticks, is that they'll do all this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, who cares? Great.
It's their concierge program.
Exactly. So will we. Right. And again, you can lock your teeth into the contract. You can make sure it's somebody who has to sell. You can go through all that stuff. And if they cancel the contract or expires, they owe you.
They have to pay you.
Exactly. It's actually quite simple. It's marketing 101, where you make these big upfront guarantees, and it all comes back to the same thing. I will guide you properly, and I will educate you on what you should and could do. And if you don't have the dough, we'll front it. Our vendors will front it. So I think we're all talking about the same thing. But let's go back to price as an issue. There's always going to be, and this is another Kennedy concept, Tony. We don't want to run to the bottom of the basement on price. It's not our model. It happens to be Redfin's model. That's their model. Now, I don't like to speak derogatory about any other company and what their model is, but clearly when you discount something, you give something up. You just do. And what I think is being given up is the service of the agent, which I keep saying to you all is where the more that you can polish what you do, the more valuable you become to that avatar. The more professional. People know the difference. They're not dumb, especially those of you moving up to middle and upper levels. They're not dumb. They know what this is. But some of them have a very strong price paradigm. So if you're in a marketplace where you're under assault and there's perception, see, all Redfin's done is create a better perception than you have that's the most valuable piece of this. Redfin's going to expose everybody's, commissions. Well, great, Redfin. We're going to expose your weaknesses. Should be your response, right? And we're going to go right after your weaknesses. What is the experience of the Redfin agent who you have just hired? We went through it. We talked to an expired. She couldn't wait to, have all the, the best stuff in place, with this, lady. And man, they sat there and they dragged and they dragged and they dragged and they dragged. I know why. She hired an inexperienced Redfin agent, and they had a burnt out building that needed to be, I could go on and on, Lee. I was in the same thing, right? So I think the point here is, we have to be cognizant of the importance of that thing. And it's not always price to people. It comes up from now and again, but we over exaggerate it. So Tony has a good solution. If you can sense that it's price, or you can explicitly ask them, or you can see their negative reaction to your price, Lee, you can't throw the cards off the table and flip the table onto the ground and get mad and throw a tantrum in your head but I do this and I do this and I do this and they don't do that. And I go, so what? No matter what you do for that specific person, not generally, for that specific person, it's as much as it's important to your whole shtick and what you do and how you do it, and that's your brand. If you want some of that other business, you have to have this concept, at least, of menu of services. This is one of those guys that's not going to understand my in-depth marketing and its importance to him. So I have to make a business decision this one time where I'm sitting in front of this guy because I can sense it. This is a problem. Hey, I get the sense that commission is super important to you. Is that right? Because if it is, let's have a conversation about it. Let's talk about I charge versus them. Let's talk about it first. Beat number one. I do these things. Did they promise to do them the same way, identically? Yes or no? Okay. Now, if they did, you got a real challenge. Somebody's doing what you're doing and they're lowering the price. If you don't, check the box. You won that piece. I also offer a healthy co-broke fee to this. This is what I do. This percentage of the fee, 50%, whatever. Here it is. This is what I offer. Well, with 88% of the deals being done, plus or minus, brokerage to brokerage, not even within a brokerage to brokerage, I have to throw compensation out there as a huge marketing thing. See, we always talk about price is the number one factor before marketing. The wrong price kills any kind of great marketing. What about the offer of compensation to the co-bro? That could end up killing traffic, demolishing traffic. Because whether we want to sit here and obsess over price fixing and all that nonsense, let the marketplace find its own water level. Some people discount, some people don't. This is a healthy, robust business when it comes to commission because of this kind of pressure. So I don't know why everybody's bitching and complaining about price fixing. It's not even close to the case. There's a constant battle between full service people who are doing more and stretching up and people who are stretching down. That's a healthy marketplace. So I think, Lee, you got to have that one-off business decision mentality, and you can't get all mad and frustrated when these people, get you. And I'm telling you, it's a mindset thing because you expressed it the same way that I felt it. You said, well, how did they get away with indexing our properties above us? Because they're better and more obsessed with blogging property addresses and bringing them up. But I found yet another exposure. My buyer gets it, and it says 2 days on Redfin. Guess what it said in MLS, Lee? 5 days on market. So, ta-da, I prove yet again that the technology companies who are just mass producing this stuff are vulnerable in these margins, but you have to learn it, you have to understand it, and then you have to expose it. And you can't expose it with those guys, right? You can't do it like that. You say, well, great, who else you consider? Oh, right, great. What attracted you to Redfin? Period. What attracted you to include Redfin? And see, if we don't ask those seller qualifying questionnaires, are you interviewing anybody else? And when a week went by, say, look, is there any reason why you don't think I could do the job, or is there any reason you think somebody else could do it? If your intuition is telling you something's going haywire, something's going haywire. That help? Everybody who's been in this conversation, I think is really important. Really. And look at as high level salespeople, all of you are that because you spend obsessive amounts of time and we sit here and we talk about it all the time. That's where the big opportunity is. Be real about what's happening in the marketplace around us. Look, I'm sitting up here in Boston today, obsessed with I'm almost like a newbie for my own book of business up here. And it's so refreshing to be that, to say what is most important to people. And you know what I keep defaulting to? I just need to find people with context and service the crap out of them for free and pull no punches. So here I am with a fresh start in another part of my business, feeling that we're just on the right thing. So please don't get up in your head and compromise it for all those who love it, accept it, and pay you what you really want to be paid. I think that's where you're at. That help?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And I love it. I love that you brought this up because especially, the top producers in this group. Yeah, it's tough. And Tony, you know what I said to you before, because we talked about this in the recruiting side, is that I don't want to be part of a race to the bottom. We've had people come in here before when they were recruiting agents or they were doing the flat fee stuff. I don't love that. I help people, buff up what they did, full service, flat fee. And, we went there, but yikes, man, that price, if price is your model, you're in a race to the bottom. You really are, because when you give up price, and again, I don't know what that means because the market finds its water, but in any commoditized service, right? There's always the people, there are always the people who their premise is based on price. Because they're, to a certain extent, unless they're really sophisticated, they're probably lazy. They're probably scared. They're probably afraid. How the hell am I going to make a living if I don't just drop my drawers on the price category? I got to do it, right? I have no other way. That's the mentality down there. Whereas I'm hoping that this group and this body of work is predicated more on service. That's more important. There is so much money lost in the micro details for sellers, buyers that just do this haphazardly. I can't tell you how many buyers that I know that have made a horrible buying choice. They got horrible advice, but they couldn't wait to go with the discount buyer agent. They couldn't wait to rush into something. They just had to make that impetuous decision. And now you got to come in on aisle 5 with a mop and clean it all up, right? We have to broadcast that message out there. Slow down. Slow down. Make a more intelligent decision. Make a more strategic decision here. Stop rushing. I'm that guy. You're that gal. You're the people for that message. And I don't think for 1 second you can take your eye off the fact that the person you're working with probably is not 100% convinced ever that you're the best choice. And like Gail said, you, Gail, and I, and gosh, so many in this group, Alan speaking up today, I guess that we've been around this so long, we get that comfort. I'm definitely going to get that one. That's that dangerous little tripping point voice. Oh, I got that one. I'm going to get that one. Oh, I thought I was going to get it, right? I don't think you can ever get that comfortable without hurting yourself. You have to obsess over going all the way until they're a raving fan at the closing table and it's done, right? I think that's the standard we need to set. And then it brings these good subjects up. All right, I'll go a little OT here. Any Q&A around that or anybody else who didn't get a chance? This is a really good discussion. Bravo to all you mastermind members. Yeah. Yep, hold on. Chris Egan, hang on because I heard Alan first. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, just this is the struggle that we're facing right now in this industry. Is those of us that are trying not to race to the bottom of the barrel, and give a value. And I appreciate the conversation today because, even though I'm not managing, I'm in the office and I hear all these agents crying, and these are good agents that are, producing 12, 15, million a year in production. So they're good agents, but they've been cutting their commissions to get, quote unquote, the business. And one of them in the office the other day was saying, I don't know why I'm attracting all these crazy people. Why am I attracting these difficult sellers? And I'm not on the listing presentations with them. I don't know, but they've reduced their commission, sometimes a half a point, sometimes a whole point. Then the people don't want to do anything, and so then they're out there paying to have the flowers planted. They're out there paying to have this done and that done. And then these people fight them tooth and nail, and then the house doesn't sell, and they're losing the listings. And, they're saying, I spent $1,500 to get this deal. And, so there's got to be, I appreciate the conversation today. There's got to be a way to figure that out, because, there's a real struggle right now with agents,
here's what,
whether they're low end or high end.
Yeah, here's what I would say. Every agent is subjected to this new world that we live in, where we believe that there's got to be a quick way to get this, and we've stopped becoming students of something. We've stopped, not this group, because that's our body of work, right? But we always want to believe that there's some quick fix, or there's a better lead source, or there's not. There's not. There's just not. There never will be. There's a process. It's a business, and it needs studying constantly. It needs, Gerber was right long ago. You have to work on it to understand it in its details. And sometimes these little understandings can swing these big doors open for you. So one of those understandings is actually this module called marketing. And this is not a marketing call per se, but again, I'll repeat, marketing is your sales pre-sale in multiple media, whether you're pre-selling on a video. And again, the pre-sale is by giving away guidance, which establishes you to be unique. See, if you would just end up in all these cattle calls for listings, okay? They're interviewing 5, 6, 7 people, and you're in a cattle call. I can make a suggestion that you probably did something wrong before that. You're going to run down and show one, and somehow miraculously, you're going to steal them away from their best friend who doesn't know they're cheating on them. You see, it's a marketing problem first for finding a very good, clear avatar that matches with who you want to be, which is the professional who gets paid a fair wage for what you do. We spend a lot of time expressing our pain that we're getting beat by somebody who's less professional than us. I don't mean as a human. I mean their approach, their techniques, their tactics, their strategies. They are less professional than a well-studied agent. So, Alan, it started back at understanding, am I spending time becoming deeply a professional? Am I beating on the craft of becoming a better, thorough agent for sellers and buyers? Yes or no? I got to look in the mirror first. So a lot of the agents, even though they're top producers, the problem with a lot of top producers, take it from Coach, because I've seen them at the highest levels, they never really took the time other than to just do it, do it, do it, do it. They never sat still. I know top producers in this group that when I first started working with them, they couldn't articulate what was unique about them. I have a couple of people that can't still to this day. So the cheat here is you are a strategic professional who has very clear plans of guidance, and you would be willing to give those away. But if they want you, me, now they need to employ us as a paid guide. That's the two beats. So it goes all the way back to believing, first of all, do you believe that taking a strategic approach is a better way to position yourself as a professional? You need to believe that. The second thing is, do you believe that's important to the consumer? Well, it is to the right consumer. Somebody who spent all their time in medical school, or somebody who's a student or a teacher or an engineer. There's so many people out there that appreciate when somebody's following a process that leads to a better result, they will pay you. So stop hanging around with the people who don't appreciate it. I had this the other day with Adam Kuchek. He was, I don't know if he's still on here, but we were talking about somebody. And he's like, yeah, well, we got this appointment, and I went out there and I met with the guy, and the guy was like, I'm not going to sell it or whatever. He dismissed him, and I asked him, what did the guy do for a living? Did he do something professionally? Is he a type of guy that could appreciate what Adam was bringing? And I came to the conclusion, no. So I don't think Adam or his staff did anything wrong booking it, other than they started with the wrong person to begin with. The right message to the wrong person will lead to that failure, Alan, right? So now All these people who are discounting just to get somebody are getting the person who doesn't appreciate them and now wants to use them and has the wrong money paradigm and doesn't appreciate professionalism. And they're sitting there scratching their heads going, why am I working with so many lunatics? Because you chose them to begin with. Well, how did I do that? I had to get paid. No, there was more out there. Just open up MLS and look. There are plenty of people that don't discount, that are professional, that do business every week. Why aren't you one of them? See, that, Alan, I think therein lies the real challenge, is that it's the starting point that's screwed up. It's not that moment. I mean, if I start and I devalue myself, well, you know, if you're working in the red light district, you're working in the red light district, right? You can't look in the mirror and call yourself something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think it's where you start. You chart that course 2% off, 2 degrees off, and you didn't want to be there. And you're looking at it going, well, why am I here? Because you charted that course, period. Go ahead, Egan. You had something for me.
Yeah, I just, of course, a lot of the resonates. I mean, yeah, I've lost noobs before. I lost to a noob once because the noob offered the seller to help them mulch their flower bed. And I remember cursing you about that. You said, yeah, they established connection. But other than that, I love that line. Is there anything else that I didn't cover that's important to you? You had one before that I just didn't take down quick enough. And I was wondering if you could rewind to that because I liked it. There are 2 lines yet as far as closing lines. Is there anything else I didn't cover that's important to you? And it's the one that came before that.
I think it was, is there any reason why you don't think you should hire?
Oh yeah, call it here's the way you'll remember it. Here's the way you'll remember it. Danny's Wall Street close. Remember, the anecdote was I had this great resume coming out of college. I had worked my tail off, great resume, and I was getting killed. I just kept losing. And I couldn't understand, like, didn't I do all the right things? I thought this was it. Only to realize that now you're down with real human beings. It really didn't matter. It mattered how you could handle yourself in a room, and you had to recognize that you weren't the hero of the room. I can articulate today, that guy back then just was a good observer, and he made adjustments as a young kid. But I just said, what I first did, let me predicate it. What I first did is I would walk into the room. I can remember the one that I got first. I looked up on the wall, and he had his Michigan degree up on the wall and said, oh, University of Michigan. Those football games look like they're incredible. The guy went off for 25 minutes or so about football games, getting drunk, passing people up over their heads from one road to the next. And he just got himself working to a froth. And when he was done talking about himself, he said, any questions for me? I said, just one. Is there any reason why you think I can't do this job for you? You could put a twist on that. Is there any reason why you don't think I'm the best person for the job? Right? So there you go. All right, gang, listen, I got to call it on that one. I've got another appointment that I've got to get to real quick here. Awesome call. Bravo. So proud of you guys today. That was the best call in a long time because you participated at the mastermind level. You heard from some real pros here today. If you're a rookie or a team member, telemarketer, you heard from real pros here today working on the finite details. Go back and listen to this one, okay?
Thanks, Danny.
You bet. Have a good day.